going on, everyone? James Van Numbers here, and welcome back to another episode of the Political Freedom Fighters podcast. And in this episode, I am featuring you all my first returning guest on this podcast. This person is currently running for Raleigh City Council and is a member of the Socialist Party of North Carolina. So, with that being said, I would like to reintroduce to all of you Josh Bradley. How are you, sir?
I am great. Thanks, James, for having me on.
Yeah, no problem, man. I guess for those that are new to the podcast, and tell who are you and what do you do?
Well, my name is Joshua Bradley, and I'm currently running for Raleigh City Council at large. I'm a hotel accountant by trade. I'm currently the co-chair of the North Carolina Triangle Local of the Socialist Party, and one of the organizers for a very long-running theory group that meets on Thursdays.
Alrighty, good to hear. We talked about who you are, what you do. Let's talk a bit about your history.
Okay. How far back do you want me to go?
However much you feel comfortable with.
Well, I was born. I grew up in Brevard, North Carolina, which was in the mountains. I moved to Raleigh in 1992 for college, and I did college for a couple of years before I ran out of money. And I have been married in about 2.5 months, 3 months. Have been married for 25 years to my lovely wife Karen, and I have a stepson who is 30 years old, and it's been a good time. I've run for city council. This will be my fourth try. In 2019, I ran for District A, which, for anybody that's familiar with Raleigh, it's the second most bourgeois district in the city. I live in one of the very few remaining pockets of working class people in District A. And I was still able to get 10% of the vote. I mean, the turnout wasn't great because it was when we were doing many municipal elections on off years. I got about 1,200 votes, which was about 10% of the people that voted as a political unknown and the furthest candidate that we can find that has ever run for city council. And then 3 years later, it should have been 2, but they gave themselves an unelected term. I ran for city council at large for the first time. We did pretty well. We got, close to 20,000 votes. And I was still relatively unknown in the city. And then in the last election, which was 2024, I was able to get like 7.5% of the vote, which was translated to about 26,000 votes. As somebody that was outraised by multiple orders of magnitude. I think in the last election, I raised about $4,000, and I got 26,000 votes. And the two people that won their seats were both incumbents, and they raised probably north of 100,000 each. So I can't be bought. So it was thought that we need to have somebody on the left running in municipal elections for a couple of reasons. The first is it opens doors. I get invited to talk at things that normally a leftist wouldn't get invited to, right? For campaign forums and candidate forums and the like. And I can put out a message about, working class power and, fighting for the people that are often ignored by city council. And the second reason is the city of Raleigh, with the exception a couple of notable Republicans, is almost all nailed down by the Democratic Party. And it was thought that some people on the left need to get to have their faces out there. And I'm hoping that there will be other non-democratic leftist candidates in the future elections to be able to, give a working class perspective on how city politics run. Other than that, I've got 3 cats and a step or a niece cat. Like our roommate has a cat too, so we have 4 cats here. So if you see a cat run across in front of the screen, that's because we're a cat household. But other than that, I'm just a regular fellow worker.
That's awesome, man. And also, congratulations on getting married for almost 25 years. That's pretty awesome.
I was lucky. I married up.
Alrighty. I guess let's talk about what is the Raleigh City Council?
Well, Raleigh is governed with a manager city council system. So the city manager basically manages the day-to-day of the city, and then there are 7 city councilors. There are 5 districts, each with 1, and there are 2 at-large councilors, and there's a mayor, and they inform. I mean, they craft policy and approve the policy of the city manager. So generally, if you want to talk to the closest way to talk to any government official is your city councilor, hands down. And city council, while it is going to be very low on the ballot, and since they're mixed in with the national politics, it's not going to seem like a priority. But I want to tell everybody that it's really important to vote in the primary, even if there's only 2 city council races that are going to go to the primary in Raleigh. It's the one that I'm running in at large, because there's 6 of us. You can vote for 2, and they're going to take the top 4 vote getters and then run that and then run them in the general election, so they can say that they got a majority of votes, right? And also District C, there are more than 2 candidates in District C, so there will be a primary for District C. But if you're not in District C, the only city council election that is going to be on your primary ballot is excuse me, is my race, is the city council at large race. And it's important, and it puts independent parties, it puts the Libertarians and the Greens, I think. I don't know. The Libertarians I don't know if they have a contested primary or not. But the Greens have been told by the Board of Election to nominate a convention. So they won't be primaried, right? So if you're independent, you can vote in either the Democratic or the Republican primaries, or at least you used to. And if you are, but if you're a Green, the only thing that you're going to get if you show up to vote is going to be a ballot for the race that I'm in, unless you're in District C, and then it'll have the race that I am in and the District C primary. And so city council is so important because it's the branch of government that you deal with day to day, and it's always going to affect your life. Like national stuff can, and these days national stuff is scary, but they're far removed from us as far as the ability to speak to somebody. So you need people on the council that are gonna speak up for you, and if there's national scary stuff going down, then it would be good to have a city council that stands behind its people and protects them from the worst excesses of the current rise in fascism in this country.
All right, fair enough. And anyways, let's talk about who's running in the race. You've mentioned there's 6 of you in total, so I guess give me your opinion on each of the other candidates.
Well, first, let me say that I don't want to endorse or deny. All of them seem very nice to me. Well, the ones that talk to me, but we can go over them. First of all, I'm running Joshua Bradley. I'm the Green Socialist candidate, and the one that's actually more concerned about the workers and businesses. And then there is the conservative candidate is James Bledsoe, who has run at least as office than I am. And if you're into really right-wing politics, you'll love him. Although there is something that I agree on him with, and it has to do with Raleigh needs to start focusing on making sure that we're using native plants native to North Carolina, and when we build and when we zone, to make sure that we are only using North Carolina native plants, which is good. I mean, it's good. So stop clocks are right twice a day. So, but it was weird that I found something in common. He wouldn't shake my hand during the last election until the very end. So it was neat to find even a sliver of common ground. And then you have Sana Siddiqui, who is the progressive Democrat that's running in the race. She seems very nice. And she was endorsed by the progressive Democrats of North Carolina, and congratulate her on that. I got the email too, but they said that you needed to register as a Democrat before you would be considered. And I'd ask if I could submit a survey understanding that they wouldn't endorse me because I'm not a Democrat, and that they wouldn't do that. But they weren't mean about it. They just said nope. And then you have Clark Reinhardt, who is running. I'm not sure what his political party is. I would assume he's either a Democrat or Republican or a independent. He's not on the list of the Greens, so, and doesn't show up to the Socialist meetings. Seems like a nice guy. He was a pastor, and he and is very, very small business and entrepreneurship focused. He seems like a nice guy, and I need to check something right quick. I don't want to butcher the last one's name. It'll take me just a second. Sorry. Cameron Zamot is the other candidate that's running, and he seems to be focused primarily on transportation, walkable cities. He runs a bike shop / coffee shop in Boylan, I believe. Seems like a nice enough guy. Also has a focus on business, small businesses. So, I mean, which is going to differentiate every other candidate for me, is that my concern is about the workers, regardless of what businesses are. If you're a business and you take care of your employees, chances are I'm gonna give you a pass. But small businesses tend to exploit workers in retail what large corporations exploit workers in wholesale. So my focus in this campaign is going to be the workers, and it's going to be the poor, the people that are living in the woods, the people that are generally ignored by city governments. But all the candidates, you can look them up. They all have websites. They're all, well, mostly friendly people. I would ask for your vote, but look at the other candidates and check them out, because you get to vote for two. So I'm not really allowed to endorse Democrats and still remain a Green or a Socialist, so I'm going to refrain. But I think if you look at their platforms, you need to vote whatever feels closest to your heart, I guess.
Alrighty, fair enough. I think on our last interview, I've asked you guys I asked you about your opinion on the Democrats and the Republicans. So, do you want to answer that question?
Yeah, no, I can always take it. It's the problem is that in this country we have two major political parties, and they're both capitalist. You have the Republican Party, which is pretty right wing and getting further right wing, and then you have the Democratic Party, which is a center right party. And both parties, when they have power on the board of elections, will do what they can to prevent other parties getting on the ballot, um, as was the case in. When the Greens got ballot access, the Democrats did a Freedom of Information request on everybody that signed the petition, and then sent notary publics out to people's houses and tried to get them to sign affidavits to renounce, to have their signatures removed, which is shady. If they'd used the money that they did that to actually, support their candidate, maybe their candidate would have done better. Like, I liked our candidate, Matt Ho. He's a nice guy, but he didn't. If all his voters had gone Democrat, then Sherry Beasley still would have lost. So it seems like the Democrats tend to bend with the Republicans, but they will go after the right, or they'll go after the left with some vigor, which doesn't seem it doesn't seem like a good plan, right? When you have, during the last presidential election, when you had like over 30% of their electorate just sitting out the election because they had problems with the candidate. And I think a lot of that had to do with the support of the genocide in Gaza, and they lost to Trump, who is terrible. But there's certain lines people won't cross. It's like me. If somebody is endorsing genocide or white supremacy or any of that, I'm not going to vote for them, even if they're better than the other candidate. That still would involve me signing my name to somebody that is actively supporting genocide or actively supporting white supremacy, and I can't in good conscience do that, because I get people say lesser of evil voting, but when it comes down to it, blue MAGA is just as bad as red MAGA, and they're just as terrible. But just let me clarify one thing: when you're talking about people that are registered Democrats, they're all over the place. Some are very, very good and very aligned, and some of them are very right wing. It's the leadership in the party that's a center right party that is funded by the same corporations and donors as the Republicans, that I have issue with. I'm not talking about the rank and file Democrats or people that have registered Democrat. You can do what you want to do, as long as when you go to vote, you look at the issues and you vote on your beliefs, and vote for people that resonate with what you believe. It doesn't matter who you're registered for. I mean, I would like a lot of people to register for the Green Party, and when we get ballot access for the Socialist Party, which we'll hopefully be able to do in the next 4 years, I would like to see a lot of people registering for the Socialist Party. But the thing is with a two-party system, and with two parties that aren't really that far apart on issues, it's good to have choices. It's good that there's a Libertarian Party, even though I'm not a Libertarian. There's good that, there's the Constitution Party, and I'm way away from the Constitution Party. But it gives more choices, and it lets you align more specifically with what you've got. You've got there are left parties, you've got the Green Party, you've got the PSL, you've got the Revolutionary Communists, you've got obviously the Socialist Party, you've got the Green Party. There are a lot of parties on the left, and so there is a choice on the left. It's just the ability to get access to the ballot is so incredibly hard in the state that it's really hard to see them. And when a party on the left of the Democrats does succeed in getting the signatures, they do everything they can to push them off, because they think that they are owed every vote left of hunting the poor for sport. And that's not how elections works. When you vote, it's a personal thing. You look at the people, you look at what they say they're going to do and believe in, and then you vote for them, the ones that you agree with. And after you vote for them, you stay on them because you want to make sure that they're living up to what they said they were. And you need to call them out. And as I say, every time I speak in front of people, it's important, if there's stuff that you believe in, to join an organization, even if it's not the Socialist Party or the Green Party or any organization that I'm part of. If there's something that you as a voter or you as a citizen or you as a resident feel is important, you need to get with other people, because we're stronger together, and we need to go out and we need to always hold the government accountable to us. Because just voting and going home and then either saying, oh, well, I voted correctly, but the person didn't win, or, what can you do other than vote, is an empty argument. You've got to get together. You've got to find people that share your views, because we're stronger together than we are individually. And just voting is never enough.
Absolutely.
Did that make sense?
Yeah, that made sense. So anyways, let's go over your platform. You have quite a bit on your platform. One of the first things I would like to go over is your stance on food waste, which I like. Reduce food waste and provide resources for distribution of food that would otherwise be wasted. Investigate the existing surplus food distribution infrastructure in Raleigh as it exists in the form of food banks and nonprofits that collect surplus food. 2. Determine best estimates for the amount of edible and non-edible compostable food that cannot be handled by infrastructure. And 3. Develop a plan with incentives for reducing this waste with a target of zero waste. I like that. By encouraging greater food contribution by sellers to nonprofits, community kitchens, and food banks, along with composting for non-edible foods. Composting can be used as feedstock for community gardens. And 4, the city should facilitate the transportation of excess food to reduce waste. For example, explore opportunities to integrate food waste recovery with school meal programs.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, it comes to the fact that we throw out a lot of food, and in this country we throw out of food. We waste a lot of food, and we have a lot of people that are food insecure. And the trick is to connect one with the other. Like, if you've got food that you're not going to use that is still edible, then we need to do what we can to get it to people that can eat it. If you're already closed for the day, right? Like restaurants, when they close, they've got waste food. If the food is still edible, there is no reason that they should throw it out. They're going to say, well, because of money and stuff, but we can't do that. And it's like grocery stores. Some grocery stores will donate stuff when they're pulled off the shelves, even though they're still good, and will donate them to either food banks or community programs. We need to encourage that, and then do what we can to facilitate, as a city, the transit. And like, non-edible food waste can be composted, and that can be used in community gardens. It can be used in city gardens. My big concern about community gardens is they tend to be located in the more well-to-do areas, and they tend to not be where the food deserts are. That's not to say that always is the case, but I think the city should do what they can to facilitate community gardens all across the city, especially to people in food deserts, so they have the ability to grow food and access food when they can't. But I know France had passed a law about food waste, about not getting rid of food waste. If the French can do it, certainly we can do it, right? It's not about taking the business's money, and there's not anybody that's going to wait until business is closed to hang out to get free food. That's not the goal at all. The goal is to take food that is usable, that can be used by people that need food, and connecting them to the people that need food. And anything that's not edible, instead of throwing it into the standard garbage, if we can get it composted, we can get it out there. There are a lot of people that would have need for compost, and not just community gardens, the community in general. There are people that would use it at home, so it just doesn't make sense to be adding that to the landfill.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you actually mentioned about landfills too, because I'm not sure if landfills are like funded by like the city government or if it's not funded like by the state government or whatever. But I don't want taxpayer money to be thrown into more landfills. So I'm glad you're talking about landfills.
Yeah, the county I think generally does the county does the landfills, I think, and then the city does the water and the trash and the actual pickup and distribution of the waste
All
within the city limits, obviously.
Alrighty, fair enough. Next, the city should apply pressure to the General Assembly to allow municipalities to set their own minimum wage.
Yes, 100%. The minimum wage in North Carolina is still $7.25 an hour. That is so far below a poverty wage, considering the average cost of a one bedroom apartment in Raleigh is like $1,400. $7.25 an hour isn't enough. And I know that we are a Dillon rule state. We're not a home rule state, so we would have to get the General Assembly to prove it. But we need to have a long-term concerted effort, get together with other municipalities and cities, and then bug them till they're sick of hearing it and pass one. We do have people in the city that lobby that lobby the General Assembly, and we should take advantage of that on issues that are doing it. I know that we have a super far right-wing General Assembly right now, and it's liable to be that way for a while due to gerrymandering and the fact that there's only two political parties, and they tend not to run people in races where they don't think they can win, which is another difference between small parties, because even if we can't win, if we've got somebody that's willing to run, we're able to put it in there to get the message out. And then hopefully over time, we can get more people on board. It's hard starting out small, but if you've got a good message and you get it to enough people, you'll grow. And that's the fear, I think, that the Democrats and the Republicans too, probably from the other direction, fear is other ideas that are coming in because they're so used to it's our way or the other party that's the other basic wing of our party. The Democrats are running on orange man bad, and yes, Trump is terrible, but like, you can't just say the other person is worse, because there's always going to be somebody that's very bad. You've got to actually have policies and programs and live up to your campaign promises and your platforms to get people to take you seriously. If not, they're just not going to show up to vote. If it doesn't matter to your life who's in charge of the federal government, then are you going to go out to vote if nothing changes when the political parties change? And the answer is no, because they're not really that far apart on issues. Take ICE. Like, ICE is a scourge, right? It is super fascist, and there are a ton of people that apparently like the taste of boot leather, because there are a lot of bootlickers that are supporting this in conservative circles, which is weird because they tend to not like the government, but this is a very, very large government expenditure. But rather than saying, we need to be calm and we need to keep our heads down to make sure that they don't target us, we need to be standing together, and we need to be, if the mayor and city council were really serious about protecting the people in our city, they would have had their public safety department follow these thugs around to make sure that they're not killing anybody or violating the law or doing anything shady, and reporting back to where the location of these people are. Because in theory, the public safety department is there as to protect and serve. It doesn't always do that, and we can talk about policing in another section if you want to, but like, in theory, that's what they should be doing, and they should be protecting people that live in the city from these people that are coming out and taking people that either speak Spanish or have brown skin and throwing them up regardless of where they're from. There was a guy they pulled off a construction site that was born in Raleigh. Like, fascists do fascist things, but like, and this is not a time to be timid and keep our head down. This is a time for us to stand up for the people that make our city work.
Fair enough. Next up, raise the minimum wage of city workers to $25 per hour.
Yeah, I think we should. I think I might have to revise that up a bit. I think right now the cost of living is, if you were on average, you would need about $28 an hour to live comfortably in Raleigh. But yeah, at least $25 an hour, because without city workers, then we wouldn't have a city, right? Without people coming to take the trash away, we would have mountains of trash. If we didn't have people running the water system, we wouldn't have water. If we didn't have people driving the buses, we wouldn't have buses. So if we didn't have people there to put out fires, we would have a lot of fires. So like, the city cannot run without the workers that do the work. I mean, bear in mind that the city is not a business and should not be run like a business, because the object of a business is to make money, profit above all else. Whereas as a city and a municipality or a county or a state, the goal is to take care of the people that live there. And we need to do what we can to make sure that not only are we paying city workers like a wage where they can live and thrive in the city, we need to listen to them, right? We need to, I mean, I know UE 150 has a lot of city workers as part of their union, and there are other unions, I have a feeling, that do some aspects of city government. And while according to the Constitution of North Carolina, city workers can't collectively bargain for wages because, fascism, but they should at least check and confer, right? They should sit down and have regular meetings with the workers, or with union reps, and if they're or just groups of city workers, to make sure that everything's right? Because without city workers, we wouldn't have a city. But yeah, that's probably one of the platform points we need to revise, because I didn't revise that from 2 years ago, and I need to push it up some.
All right, that's reasonable. How much would you say that the minimum wage for Raleigh would need to be?
Well, I mean, I would say $28 an hour should be the minimum wage. I mean, it should be tacked to the living wage, and it should be tacked to the cost of living in any city, right? The problem was in the 1980s, productivity and wages separated, right? At one time, productivity and salaries went up until like the late 70s, early 80s, and when productivity kept climbing, but wages flattened, which basically meant that the people at the top were getting richer, but the workers were getting poorer because their wages weren't moving very much, and the cost of living was going up. So ideally, a national minimum wage should be based on the living wage in the city, in the area you live in. And in order to not be housing insecure, you need to make your housing cost and your utility cost should not be more than 33% of your income. Now, so that's so far out of the expectation here. Like, after college, when I was just working, I was paying, me and 3 other people were sharing rent for a 2-bedroom townhouse. We were paying $425 a month, and I was furious that they raised us to $25. But looking back at it, I mean, minimum wage then was like, I don't know, was it $5.90, or I don't know. It was just north of $5 an hour at the time. And now that same 2-bedroom townhouse would probably cost about $2,000 a month, but the minimum wage is only $7.25 an hour. So it should be tacked to the real living wage in the areas that you are. Like some areas is cheaper to live in and some areas are more expensive. They're not very many affordable places left in this state, unfortunately, due to rapid growth, rapid gentrification, and just cost pressures going up because it has to do with income inequality. Like the income inequality is higher than it's ever been. The rich are doing very, very good, and everybody else is struggling. So if it were up to me, the minimum wage would be tagged. Would be tagged to a living wage in the area or a thriving wage in the area, because you shouldn't work 40 hours a week and then barely be able to get by. And Lord knows you shouldn't have to work 3 jobs to barely squeak by and live in our city. It's unconscionable.
Fair enough. Next, the city should pass a resolution encouraging the North Carolina General Assembly to allow collective bargaining and strikes for public sector workers, as well as condemn union-busting activities that restrict workers' ability to organize without retribution or fear of loss of employment.
I think that pretty much speaks for itself. Like, we need to get unions in here, because unions, or the threat of unions, have a good effect on people's wages and benefits. North Carolina has a pretty low for wages for most workers, and the reason for that is that we are an at-will state and we are a right-to-work state, which means that we are down with unions, and our bosses can fire us for any reason at all. We have one of the worst unemployment insurance coverage in any state in the union. Oxfam has rated us last in the country for like 3 years in a row. We are half as good by their metrics as Mississippi. Now, Mississippi is known to not be good for workers, but they are twice as good as we are based on an Oxfam thing. But we are the first in business, right? So the business people are doing really well, and they're doing that by making sure that the workers have very little access to wages or representation. So we need to make sure that collectively workers can get together and demand better conditions, better wages, and better benefits, because remember that without workers you get nothing done. The workers produce the value. The wealthy and capital doesn't contribute anything except for money. They're trying real hard to get robots to do it, but they're not, and they're going to be expensive to maintain. So when it comes down to it, the people that produce the value are the workers, and they should have a better share of the profit generated by what they produce. Unions, especially city workers and teachers need to have the right to bargain and strike. People are like, but the children, and it's like, yeah, but the children, if you don't pay teachers enough, you're not going to have the teachers to provide the good quality education. So it's important that everybody have the ability to organize, because again, we're stronger together than we are separate. And I've seen some of the anti-union training that some of the corporations have done, and it's sickening. But in an at-will state, it's easy to terrify people.
Fair enough. Next, in order to establish in the public mind the concept of workplace democracy, the city will promote and create incentives for the development of worker cooperatives.
Yes. Yeah. The city does a lot for entrepreneurial stuff. What we need to do is we need to also offer incentives for workers coming together and collectively producing stuff, right? Collectively owned and run businesses tend to be much better for their employees. They tend to make much better products, and they tend to be able to make things more affordable, because they're not having a lot of the stuff filtered off and given to investors that don't contribute. So I think the city we have parks all over the city, and which means we have locations that we can have trainings for lots of different things. And this should be one of the options that people should go to for the city if they want help creating a business, is like, why isn't collectivism an option? Why aren't we doing collectives? Like, if we had a building guild in the city of Raleigh, that we could take people that were in the vocational programs in the high school and at the tech school, pay them the wage that they deserve, have them control in the operation of it, have a job putting the skills that they're learning in school, and then use them to build housing for people that can't otherwise afford it on city land with city money. And we do it in a way that you don't have to worry about siphoning off a lot of the money to give to investors that don't have any stake in it, except for a vampire-like, leech-like, give us the money stake.
Fair enough. Next, the city should transition to entirely low or zero emission vehicles, as well as eliminate all diesel buses and replace them with electric buses.
Yeah. I mean, we need to get away from fossil fuels, and we need to increase infrastructure for mass transit. So the best way to do that would be probably a higher initial cost, but I think that if we go to electric buses, it's going to take a lot of diesel fuel out of the air, and a lot of the natural gas. They're using natural gas a lot too, but methane is a worse greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide is. So maybe they don't use it in the quantity that they use it, but it's still very bad to put it in the environment. So from an environmental standpoint, that's what we need to do. We also should look at doing like light rail trolleys. I mean, if you look back at the pictures before, the whole Standard Oil bought up all the mass transit, there was a trolley system in Raleigh, and you had rails down the middle of the roads, and I'm pretty sure they were electric too. I mean, stuff like that increases public transportation and reduces dependency on roads. And people will say, Josh, nobody rides it. Nobody would ride a light rail. Nobody would ride a monorail. And my answer to that is, if you are stuck in traffic between Durham and Raleigh coming home during rush hour, and you look up between the interstates and you see a monorail flying by and taking people there while you're sitting stuck in traffic for an hour, I think you might be willing to use it. And I know that we passed a transportation tax several years ago that we're giving 0.5% of our tax to transportation. Our sales tax too, but what do we have for it? Are they talking about bus rapid transit, which is, if you're not familiar, they're talking about doing a bus line in the 4 cardinal directions in Raleigh, north and south, east and west. But at the same time, they're putting a transit overlay district that's going to push out everybody that rides the bus, right? You're going to end up with a lot of market rate and luxury condos along the bus rapid transit system. But the thing is, rich people don't ride the bus. Occasionally they'll do to make a point, but when it comes down to it, rich people don't ride the bus. I mean, rich people might bicycle more than they take the bus, but as a general rule, rather than throwing all this money into this bus rapid transit, it might have been better to look at ridership lists, find out who rides the bus most, and then increase service to those areas and provide better shelters, and then maybe access to food and stuff around the bus lines based on the ridership, rather than this envisioning that for some reason rich people are going to start jumping on the buses and hordes. It's not going to happen. And if you're pushing out the people that ride the bus, then it doesn't effective, and it's going to end up being a waste of money down the road. But that's just my opinion. I can be proved wrong. I hope I am. I hope they don't gentrify all along the BRT, but that's not what seems like is going to happen. Like, I would love it if workers had access to fast bus transportation. I would love it, but if people are gentrified out of the areas to quick access to the buses, then then I think it's a waste of money.
Fair
I know
enough.
that kind of went off on a tangent, but like I figured we just do transportation.
Fair enough. I guess we can go back to talking about policing. The best outcome for the people of Raleigh would be to defund the existing police force and create a new public safety structure.
Yes. You want me to clarify that?
Sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, the current model of policing in the United States is based on slave patrols. The current policing is armed, and it tends to protect property over people. And ideally, what a public safety department would look like would be almost all unarmed, right? You would have a very, very small subset of people that have deadly weapons that are trained and vetted from here to next Tuesday, right? If your uncle's brother's dog urinated in the yard of somebody that knew somebody that was part of the member of the Klan or any other racist organization, you should probably not be in the police department unless you can prove that you don't have any of that bias. The majority of the police department should be unarmed, and should be looking out for people and not necessarily protecting property. The goal should be protecting people first. We've just had too many incidences in the city of Raleigh where people in uniform will murder somebody. They shot Akil Deacons in the back. Sahil Majarad was having having a moment of crisis and allegedly had a folding knife, and I don't think they ever proved that, and was shot and killed by a uniformed officer. And there were no charges. Like the officers got away with it, right? Like, so that's obviously people say that, Josh, that it's just a few bad apples, but bad apple spoils the bunch. Like if it was just a few bad apples, then they would have gotten it taken care of because they would have gone and weeded out all the bad apples. I think the model of policing should be protecting people first. I think de-escalation should be the primary tactic. And I think that communities should be able to have a say in which police officers are allowed in their areas of the city. I think there should be a police oversight board. That it would take a change of the legislature, but I think that they should have be representative of the community, including people that have served time in jail or prison, and should have subpoena power and investigation power to make sure that we're keeping people honest. The one thing that I think is a really positive thing is Refund Raleigh was pushing for an alternate policing program. Raleigh Cares, I think they were going to call it after Durham Cares. It was based on that and the STAR program in Denver, where you have a separate visible unit that is not inside the police department, that is used to take care of people in crisis. Right. And the city council, they did a lot of research. They did it and they passed it, but they didn't fund it. And they're saying that they're not funding it because the county's not on board. But I think that's we could do it in the city. We just have to reallocate funds. It's just a matter of prioritizing the money we have. We have like a $1.2 billion budget. Like surely we can find ways to fund it. And that way the people that respond to people in crisis are trained to do that, and they're not just people that are skittish that are told that people are going out to kill them, so they got to shoot first. So when we have police, we don't need police. We need public safety, and we need the safety of all the public, not just the rich and not just the businesses. So hopefully we can get the alternative policing. And a good note, they did add psychological workers to EMS, so they will refer people to mental health professionals instead of necessarily sending the police out. It's just the police isn't the right tool to handle that, right? They're not designed for that. So And statistically, if you want to lower crime in an area, the only thing that is shown to reduce crime in any given area is providing housing and services to people that need it. And that cuts down a majority of the crimes. And currently we're just taking people and arresting them for loitering and cycling them through the jail and prison system, which is more expensive than providing houses to begin with. So when I say that it needs to be structured, it just needs to be on a solid base. It needs to be de-escalatory. It needs the training needs to de-emphasize use of weapons and murdering people. And cops that murder people should stand to account for murdering people. So that's my take on policing.
All right, fair enough. I do like this part this part of your policing plank, and the Raleigh Police Department's cooperation with the NC State Capitol Police until such time as the General Assembly rescinds laws that limit the autonomy of counties and municipalities.
Yeah, no. I was just thinking, and that came from the discussions on my first campaign, because you're told all the time that since we're a Dillon Rule state, and the General Assembly will straight up pass a law that impacts one municipality because they don't like it, right? But anytime there's a protest on state land, then Raleigh's been sending their police people out to try to quell the protest. But let's just not do that. Let's if the state wants to go through and tell us what we're going to do, then we'll let them handle all that stuff. Right? There's no need for Raleigh to spend its money crushing basically free speech, on state land, and in state areas like at the state capitol and, at the General Assembly. There's why are we spending our treasure to suppress free speech when, if they want to pass laws that are so horrendous that people are going to be out protesting in large numbers, then they need to be the ones that have to deal with that, and it shouldn't be the city. And I'm obviously not a fan of the way it's handled. So it's just funny how, and if there's protests in Raleigh, and I've been to several I've been to some counter protests against the Proud Boys, and the cops will let the Proud Boys either take off their license plate or cover their license plate as they leave the place, because they don't want them to be doxxed. Which is weird, because they will straight up take videos of anybody that protests against that stuff. So I know when the 3%ers were protesting several years ago at the state capitol, they had long guns, and they wouldn't let the counter protesters bring sticks to hold banners on. So it's very interesting. And the reason the Proud Boys aren't bothered by the cops, I think, is because they know each other from the meetings. But that's just me.
Fair enough. And I think that plank is something you and the Libertarians do share on, because the Libertarians have talked about a guy by the name of Joshua Ronner, who was actually a homeless veteran who had a very terrible experience with the police. Ended up, I'm not sure if he got shot or not, but I know his dog got killed during this whole situation, and he had been fighting for years, and it was very terrible. So I know you and the Libertarians will certainly agree on this for sure.
Yeah, well, when the Libertarians call every time I run, they go through what they believe, because they endorse outside a party. And I think I get about 40% of stuff that they can deal with, but not enough, right? But yeah, and the Libertarians are good on stuff. They're good on gay rights. I don't know if it's because they are concerned about it, or they just don't want the government involved. So they're good on gay marriage because they don't believe marriage should be done by have anything to do with the government. So So I'm sure some of them do. I mean, libertarianism is a spectrum, and I know of a situation where somebody who identified himself as an anarcho-socialist ran on the Republican platform somewhere in the Midwest. Used to be a member of our party too, but I don't think that's the rule. I think generally, at least in North Carolina, they tend to be on the conservative end of the spectrum. But they're generally interesting people to talk to.
Fair enough. And I guess the last thing we're going to go over is end any city cooperation with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. Give residents notice and info about planned ICE raids in Raleigh.
Yeah, that should be common sense. We don't need to be working with people that are coming after our residents. And the people that live in Raleigh. We don't have a problem in North Carolina or in this country with crime committed by people that are undocumented. As a general rule, people that have immigrated to this country, whether they're here with documents or not, tend to commit crimes much less than the people that were just born and raised here. There's not a metric that shows. There's no metric that shows that more crimes are committed by people that are undocumented, or that people that have immigrated here or are here seeking asylum, than people that are born, because they happen to be lucky enough to be or born on our side of a random line drawn in the sand by politicians a couple hundred years ago. I personally don't believe in borders, so I have a hard time with the existence of Border Patrol. And the one thing to bear in mind is that both the Democrats and the Republicans have each tried to outdo each other in giving money to these fascist thugs that are coming into our city. So we should not cooperate. And if they tell us that, if they pass a law saying that the police should in the city of Raleigh have to cooperate with ICE, then the one thing that the state constitution doesn't require is a police department. So if they're going to make us do that, then we can just shut down the police department and then let the sheriff's department handle it.
Alrighty, fair enough. So, how's the campaign doing right now?
Well, it's the structure of the campaign is kind of rough, right? Like a March primary is early and it's right after the holidays, and it's cold, and it's potentially it's supposed to be snowing. I don't know, is it snowing yet? It's snowing now. Eventually it gets here. It's really not a good time to raise money, and it's not a time. It's really harder to get out into the community because there's not as many community events because it's cold. You get out where you can. I'm going to go to forums. I'm going to go out and wherever I can to meet the people in this very large city. But it's a difficult run, and I think we're doing okay. I think our political message, I think, is resonating with a lot of people. I think even there are some liberals that probably regret not voting for me and other left candidates in the last election after the whole North Hills rezoning and after the rezoning downtown. They were really against this big cane development, but at the same time, they voted out Mary Black, who would have opposed it, and they didn't elect me that would have opposed it. And at least one of the mayoral candidates that got very little votes, would have been against it as well. So, I think they were trying to make a point about some of them that it's okay to commit genocide as long as it's that they're genociding people. But I think that it was a shame that Mary Black was lost and replaced by somebody that is very friendly to development. So as far as how the campaign, it's doing pretty good. We have campaign meetings. You've sat on a couple. I've got signs left from the last campaign. I've got some more being ordered. We're talking about getting a StreamYard account and doing starting probably in 3 or 4 weeks, doing a weekly State of the City podcast out to our YouTube channel. and hopefully get some people on talking about issues that are important to them. And then, if anybody's out there is interested in volunteering for a leftist city council campaign, we sure could use you. If you can't afford to send us any money would be appreciated. But anytime that you can volunteer at early voting or on election day, handing out literature or putting up signs, it would be super helpful, because the well-moneyed candidates, the ones that are favored and supported and funded by the developers, are going to be able to pay a lot of people to go out and hand out stuff. Whereas we, as a grassroots, as a worker-driven, grassroots campaign, have a little bit harder time to do that. But I think this is going to be the year. And if we can get past the primary, I think it'll be on for the election.
That's awesome, man. The last thing I gotta ask you is there anything else you want to talk about?
How much time do we have?
We still have some time, so yeah.
When it comes down to city politics, I just mainly want to reiterate what Ed said earlier, that it's important. City council is important because it's the city of government that affects most people most of the time, and it's the one level of government that you have relatively easy access to the people that represent you. And it's going to be way at the bottom of the ballot or barely on the ballot during the primaries. So it's important to research your candidates. I would ask you for your vote for me. But even more important is that you go through and you research all the candidates. Like, if you are a conservative person out here watching this, and then I might not be the choice for you. I'm not going to lie. I've been very honest when I do poll greeting, and when people ask me, and they're like, well, you're not a Democrat, I'll vote for you. And I'm like, but wait, I want to be clear. I want you to walk in here with a clear view of who you're voting for, that I am a socialist. I am a green. This is what I believe in. So it's important that you research the people that are running, especially in the nonpartisan races. And if you're one of those people in the two big political parties, you haven't left yet to find, your own space and independent space, really don't look at the ones that the party leadership throws down. Look at all of them and find the ones that choose you, because generally the more favorable they are to the people, the less favorable they are to the money. And so I know county parties tend to vote for, and on behalf of their donor. And also get involved and get organized in stuff that you believe in. If you are really have an issue that's close to your heart, there are going to be organizations and people out there that are working towards that same goal, and we are stronger together. And it's important to vote, but that voting isn't the be all end all. Not only do you have to vote, you have to hold the people that you voted for accountable if they win, and you have to hold the people that you voted against if they win. You have to let them know what your opinion is, because in theory they are here to represent you. And the difference between me and the other candidates is that I am not running to support developers. I'm not out running to support small businesses or large businesses. I'm here for the workers. I'm here for the people that are generally ignored by the city council, the people that are poorer than most people, the people that work for a living, the people that teach in our schools, that take our trash away, that run the water system, that serve, that cook our food, and all the people that are so important and so critical to the running of the government and to the existence of the government and the existence of the society we live in. I'm here to try to stand up for them. And I have a feeling that there will be enough people on council standing up for businesses, big and small, that businesses don't need to worry about not being represented at the table, because they pretty much own the table. I'm just trying to make sure that that everybody else that is often ignored, but are so tremendously important to the success of our city, have somebody to fight for them. And hopefully that will be me.
Alrighty, that's awesome. With that being said, that's going to be it for this episode of the Political Freedom Fighters podcast. If you all have enjoyed, please hit the like button down below and type in a comment for any suggestions that you may have for the podcast. And definitely hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and hit the notification bell so that you can be updated on any new episodes of the Political Freedom Fighters podcast. I will be linking all of Josh's social media in the description below so that you all can check it out for yourselves. And with that being said, I hope you all have enjoyed, and I'll see you all later. Peace out. Oh, what? Oh, crap. Oh, crap. All right. I guess that's it. I'll see you all later. Peace.